I'm Charlotte McLeod with investingnews.com, and here today with me is Doug Casey. He is a best-selling author, and you can find him online at internationalman.com and also right here on YouTube. His podcast is Doug Casey's Take. Thank you so much for being here. Great to have you.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here with you, Charlotte, although for me, here is out on the farm in Uruguay at the moment.
Well, and for me, as usual, I am here in rainy Vancouver, so I'm glad to hear you're somewhere with a little bit better weather.
Oh, it is. Trust me.
Well, Happy New Year. We've made it to 2026, and we've got a lot of directions that I think we can go in today. I want to start with gold because that's always of high importance to our audience. And looking back at 2025, it's had a really strong year, of course. I'm wondering, as we look forward to the new year, when it comes to gold, what factors are you watching most closely? Is there a single thing you point out that's driving it, or is it more a confluence of factors at this point?
Well, for the last several years, I should say, I've pointed out that gold is reasonably priced relative to everything else in the world. Suit of clothes, a meal in a restaurant, a house, whatever. As it got into the $2,500, $3,000, $3,500 range. That's where it kind of should be. It's kind of caught up with everything, but now it's at $4,500 more or less. So it's in real terra incognita, and is it overpriced? And the answer to the question is that I don't think there's any way out of this corner that these governments have painted themselves into, except to eventually back their currencies and make them exchangeable. There's a difference between backing and exchangeability. Backing is theoretical, and they can defraud you on that. But when it's exchangeable, take the paper to the bank gives you specie. Yeah, I think they're going to have to go to that eventually, because you can't have the monetary system break down in a highly interconnected, industrialized world like we have today. So, answer to the question, central banks have been the buyers of gold by the official numbers, which are not always reliable, but still they're indicative, for years. Why? Because these central banks have assets. What kind of assets? Well, mainly it's been U.S. dollars. They don't want to hold U.S. dollars. The U.S. dollar is the unsecured liability of a bankrupt government. So what are they going to hold for assets? Well, they don't want to hold each other's currencies either. So what else can they? Gold. That's what they've been doing, is buying gold. And I think that the price of gold is going to have to go a lot higher. Just to get rid of all the dollars that these central banks have. The public is not involved in gold at all yet, at all. So this gold bull market is coming from a whole different sector than past ones have. And at some point, the public will get involved. Yeah, gold is going higher, 5,000, 6,000, something like that this year. Not entirely unreasonable. But I hate to make predictions when the situation is so unstable and chaotic, but going higher, yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate it as a very uncertain situation right now. And I think I've asked you this in the past when it comes to that public participation element in gold. What do you think is the trigger that pushes more people toward gold? Because it kind of feels like we should have been seeing that by now.
Good point. The public is very involved, as best as I can tell, with the stock market, because of course the stock market is also at all-time highs, and by all the standard measures of what's cheap and what's dear, stock market is grossly overpriced. Price to book value, price to dividend ratio, parabolic rise, on and on and on. That's where the public is. So the question is, what's going to happen when the stock market goes down? Because nothing goes straight up and the stock market's riding for a fall. Oh, that's my opinion. So I think there's going to be a panic into gold. And why do I think that gold will be the beneficiary? Because, and I've said this many times before, but it should be repeated many, many times again, it's the only financial asset that's not simultaneously somebody else's liability. And when debts are defaulted on, the stock market's crashing, and all this stuff is cyclically happens. People will once again rediscover gold. It's not just a pet rock like Warren Buffett famously liked to say. I mean, he was right about a lot, but that's one thing he was not right about. Or, well, he's still alive, obviously.
Let's talk a little bit more about what's going on with the stock market, because I think we last spoke a little over a year ago. And at that time, we were talking about the bubble in the stock market, what was going on with AI stocks. And it just seems to have continued going. So what's the tripping point for the stock market at this point? What are we waiting for here?
Well, listen, that is a ride that I've missed. I mean, I could have bought a ticket. I remember, look, I'm on a couple of Zoom calls with hedge fund managers and guys like that. And everybody was asking themselves, God, should I buy NVIDIA now? Should I buy NVIDIA? Well, everybody should have bought it because it's tripled or whatever since then. And a triple in a year is good. But, I don't like to buy something that I don't really understand and has already gone to a parabolic high. You want to bet it's going higher? Well, maybe you'll be right. But in today's world, I think it's more important not to lose what you have than to try to make a little bit more, okay? And there is a mania where everybody's talking about AI. Everybody's talking about AI, and these companies are talking about investing not just millions, not just billions, not just tens of billions, not hundreds of billions in these data centers and so forth. I think it's gotten a little bit out of control. Let me understate it by saying that.
Yeah, I do agree. I think out of control is an understatement, and I'm sure that has to reverse course at some point. So
it's easy to get caught up with these things because, you go to cocktail parties and your neighbor says, oh, I doubled my money last week on XYZ tech stock or whatever it might be. Well, this has happened lots before. And it is usually, this type of thing starts happening usually just before a catastrophe. Like in the late 60s, this happened, and around 2000, that happened. And especially with the world financial situation as unstable as it is, more unstable than it's ever been in the past, I'm especially loath to be in the stock market when it's in bubblicious territory.
I think that makes a lot of sense. And so we're heading toward this panic into gold. What about silver? We've seen also, I probably should have started this with silver instead of gold because we've seen such a big move in silver to end the year. When you're looking at silver, we know that silver follows gold higher. Is this move silver following gold higher, or are there more silver specific factors that are at play driving this move?
Well, both. And silver is a whole story. We could do an hour just talking about the history of silver, both from a monetary point of view and from a technological point of view. And, it wasn't actually so long ago that there were a whole bunch of newsletters that were just silver newsletters. I think they've all disappeared. Maybe I'm wrong. But you can't be a one-trick pony in the investment world. That's the first mistake. That silver people are like a special class of people. The people that have always believed in silver. You're not supposed to believe in an investment. Okay, it's like you don't love anything that can't love you back. Silver's like that. Anyway, answer to the question is, I've always been friendly towards silver for various different reasons. I own a whole bunch of it. I've accumulated it over the years in cash form, physical form. The only problem with silver is that if you're going to have enough of it to be of real value, you got to find some place to store it. I mean, it's heavy, bulky stuff. So, answering the question, look, silver, it's the most reflective, the most conductive, both electrically and heat-wise of all the naturally occurring elements. That naturally makes it a high-tech element. Another point of view that you might bear in mind is that the annual production of silver is trivial in dollar terms, even relative to gold. The demand for silver every year these numbers are very flexible as far as what they count in what column and where it comes from and all this. But let's say there's 1 billion ounces of silver that are demanded by the market, but there's only 200 million ounces of the stuff that's mined every year. And there used to be huge inventories of silver. The U.S. government once owned 2 billion ounces of silver and all the silver in coins before 1965. It's all gone. I mean, it doesn't exist. There are no big hoards of silver anymore. And because of its unique chemical properties, silver's kind of coming into its own as a high-tech metal. So, answer to the question, is silver at a new high where it's going to stay there? Yeah, very possibly. Not a prediction, but I'm not selling my silver. I mean, why should I sell it? I'm holding it as an asset, not as a speculative device. So, is it going to 100 or 200? Yeah, it's possible. I don't really care because I'm mainly involved other than just having a bunch of silver, in silver stocks and gold stocks. I mean, I don't use either my silver or my gold as speculative vehicles. That's not what they're about to me. I treat the gold and silver mining stocks that way, though, because they're very cheap and very volatile and very interesting at this moment.
Well, in that case, let's talk a little bit more about the gold and silver mining stocks. So my impression for the gold stocks is that they have started to catch up with what the price is doing. Silver stocks probably not so much because we've just had this big price move right now. Where are you focusing when it comes to the gold and silver stocks? Where's the most potential?
Well, there are not that many silver stocks out there. Not that many at all. I mean, I haven't tried to count them up, but I'd say that the number of companies that say they're in the gold mining business or have gold on their share certificate, although few of them have any gold in the ground, probably outnumber silver stocks by about 10 to 1, something like that. So silver is a much smaller universe than gold is. But I own some silver stocks, and they've done fine. I mean, getting doubles, triples, quadruples, quintuples. Listen, in a year, that's fantastic. Everybody loves that. I mean, same thing has happened with gold stocks. But I'll point out that in past gold and silver, because they usually do run together, of course, bull markets since 1971, when the dollar was freed, to use Nixon's term, from gold, there have been about 5 major precious metals bull markets. When these crappy little stocks, and most of them are crappy little stocks, they're not legitimate investors don't care about precious metal stocks. They're too small, they're too volatile, they rape Mother Earth, the native people hate them. I mean, you've got to play with big yellow machines in the dirt, and who wants to do that when you can, move electronic bits on your computer and make a zillion times more money? So nobody cares about these things, and their market caps are very, very small. They're not small caps. They're not micro caps. They're nano caps. Some of them are pico caps. They're so tiny. So, yeah, I think that the public is going to move into them. They're going to discover them at some point, and they're going to explode upwards because they're so volatile, so thinly held, and So I'm looking for one more big bull market in the precious metals, and then I hope to sell at the top. Maybe, I don't know how I'll figure out when the top is. Maybe that's when Slime or Newspeak, which probably won't even exist by then as magazines. I always figured they were the perfect contrary indicators. I figured I'd see a picture of a golden bull tearing apart the New York Stock Exchange on the front cover of one of those magazines. And at that point, I hope to sell all my precious metal stocks and buy something prudent and intelligent. And maybe at that time, the regular stock market will be really, really cheap, and I'll feel comfortable doing that. That'd be a happy coincidence.
Yeah, I was going to ask, if you have any thoughts on what could be the next thing that you move into after this last push into gold and silver. Any thoughts?
Well, will it be real estate? That's always something you got to consider. Maybe not. The problem with real estate is it floats on a sea of debt today, and I don't know where that debt's going to go to. And all the local governments in North America are bankrupt, and they get most of their money from real estate taxes. So I don't know. No particular opinion on that. And I speak as somebody for whom real estate's been very, very good to me. Bonds? No. I don't want to own a paper obligation in a fiat currency. And bonds are a triple threat to your capital. Interest rates are going up. There's going to be more bankruptcies, and the currency, the dollars or whatever it is, are going to be going down. So bonds are a speculative vehicle. Not interested in them. No, it'll be the stock market for me. And I don't know what the place in the stock market will be when this magic time happens, when I dump all my metal stocks and buy into stock. I'll find something looks cheap. I mean, like right now, what part of the stock market, other than the metal stocks, which have already gone up, pretty well, I think the cheapest part of the stock market is the energy complex: oil, gas, uranium, and coal. And everybody hates oil and gas, in particular at the moment. I'm a longtime uranium bull for lots of good technological reasons. I think that uranium is going higher along with its stocks. I like coal, which absolutely everybody hates as much as you can hate anything. I mean, it's like, but I kind of like it. Some of these, nobody even knows this. It's, you've got coal stocks, various places in the world that are yielding 10% and more in current dividends, selling 2 or 3 times earnings. So that's a good time to buy it when everybody hates it and you're getting paid to wait. So I'm looking at, I look at things like that. But the main thing I don't want to do is I don't want to lose money, because that's actually, I think that's underrated as something to keep in mind. Everybody's saying, "Oh, I'm going to double my money tomorrow on the next NVIDIA supplier," or whatever the hell it is. I think that's the wrong question. I'm saying, well, I just want to make sure I don't lose what I have, because that's really unpleasant. Missing a double, nobody likes to do that, but losing all your money, no, nobody likes to do that. That's hard to make a comeback from that.
Absolutely. There is always that push to have more, but there's certainly the case for maintaining what you have. Let's go in some of the directions that you mentioned there. I'm curious to know a little bit more about oil and gas. I think for the sector right now, people are looking at the US-Venezuela situation and wondering what that could mean for the oil and gas sector. So any thoughts you would share on that note?
This is an interesting question. Why did Trump kidnap this criminal that runs Venezuela? I mean, he's Maduro, stupid guy, just a zero kind of guy. Okay, so Trump kidnaps him at great expense and great risk, and the government is still in place in Caracas. Who's going to take over the government? Well, they got his vice president who's running it, who's no prize, but maybe a general, or maybe the head of the secret police will take it over. And will anything change in Venezuela? Who knows? Maybe there'll be a civil war in Venezuela as one or more of the people that want to be president and their pals fight each other. Who knows? So at the moment, I don't really understand the point of what Trump has done, just capturing this one completely. He's a dumb bunny. He's a worthless criminal. So, okay, what's going on there? The question is, it's all about oil. It's not about drugs. I mean, Venezuela is not, and I've been down there 3 or 4 times at least over the years, and it's not like Colombia where they grow coke and that's a major industry. Yeah, there's probably drugs that come out of Venezuela. There's drugs that come out of everywhere to everywhere else. It's no big deal. So it's about the oil, I guess. But wait a minute, what's that oil worth? In the oil world, there's lots of grades of oil going from, ultralight sweet crude, which is almost like getting gasoline out of a pump, to tar. I mean, literally tar. And the costs of mining it and refining it vary greatly. And it's true what they say about Venezuela, greatest oil reserves in the world. Well, that's great. The greatest oil reserves in the solar system are probably on Titan, the moon of Jupiter. I mean, but what's that mean? You can't get it. It's too expensive. So I don't understand what Trump is doing to produce the oil in Venezuela. It used to produce 3 or 4 million barrels a day, and of course the socialists ran the industry into the ground. Produces about 1 million right now. Is it profitable? Well, not at $60 oil where we are right now. I mean, they're just trading dollars. They're paying workers in Venezuela with worthless pesos to export it. And if you can't make money in Venezuela on Venezuelan oil at $60, that's all there is to it. So I don't understand what Trump is doing. Is he going to get American oil companies to go down there and ramp production up to 5 million barrels a day? I mean, it's going to cost them billions and billions of dollars to do it. And they're in a politically unstable place, especially after what Trump has just done. I mean, if I ran a big oil company, I don't want to go down there and mess around with that. So, this is like everything Trump does. I mean, I'm very pleased with his anti-DEI stance. I mean, that alone is probably worth the price of admission. But when it comes to anything else that Trump does, he's proving himself to be a narcissist and a megalomaniac. And I think he mainly wants to be the most famous man in world history. And he could succeed in that, too. He could succeed. He wants to be the modern Julius Caesar. But it's not going to end well, as Julius proved.
Right. I mean, I could certainly see that happening. So Venezuela is still a bit of a question mark. One thing I've heard said about what's going on is maybe this is a test to see how the world reacts to this move from the US. They see what happens and maybe then can make moves on other countries. I know he's been talking about Greenland. Any thoughts on the merits of that idea?
Yeah, it's really funny. I mean, Greenland has been sitting there forever. Nobody's paid any attention to it forever. There's only 50,000 people in it, and most of them are Eskimos. Okay, the U.S. used to have, dozens of bases of one type or another there. Now they just have that one. So I guess Trump can take it over. Well, I guess he can do it. But what are the consequences of that going to be? Well, it's part of Denmark, and Denmark's part of NATO. So I like to look at the bright side of everything. And the bright side of Trump taking over Greenland is maybe it'll act towards the dissolution of NATO, which should have been dissolved 30 years ago when the Soviet Union fell. It serves no useful purpose whatsoever except to provoke the Russians, who we can get into this thing with the Russians and the Ukrainians. But yeah, so I think it's going to work towards the destruction of NATO. And of course, the European Union is going to fall apart because it serves no useful purpose. It used to be a good idea when it was a customs union to get rid of customs and enable free travel between people in Western Europe. Great idea, okay? Decreasing the impingement to the government on your life in those two. But since then, it's mutated like a monster. And most people are unaware of the fact. Do you know how many people work for the EU in and around Brussels mostly? Take a wild guess. Can you? Most people have no idea.
No, I have no idea. Tell me.
80,000 people that serves no useful purpose at all. except to try to regulate French cheese and impose new layers of regulations and taxes. The EU run by that horrible person, Ursula, she-wolf of the EU. It should be abolished. I mean, it's crazy. It's just grown like topsy. And they should go back to a simple customs union where they don't tax each other and let people cross borders easily between but the EU has acted actively to destroy Europe itself and Western civilization, what's left of it, along with it. So yeah, the good news about Greenland, which I guess Trump is going to take, is it will act to immanentize the eschaton in that area. So that's okay. And I guess he's going to go after the Panama Canal too, which is it's a different situation actually, because Panama was the creation of the U.S. The Panama Canal was financed and built by the U.S. You can say, yeah, it was stolen from. We can go into all this type of thing, but yeah, there's some reason for the U.S. taking that over. And what else does he want to take over? What else has he been talking about? Panama, the Panama Canal, Greenland. I know. We could talk about Alberta. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I love Alberta. That's my favorite province in Canada. Always has been. I've spent a lot of time in Canada. I used to live in Canada. So I'm a big fan of Alberta, and it is different from most of the rest of Canada. And yeah, I think Alberta would be way better off if it left Canada. And the same is true of Saskatchewan. It ought to cut out and leave Ontario on their own and leave Quebec on their own. No more welfare to Quebec. Sorry, you have to make it on your own. And I don't know what BC would do, but Canada is going to break up. No question about it in my mind. Eventually. So that's part of it too. I think that's how Canada fits into it. For Trump to say, yeah, we're going to make Canada the 51st state, that's really stupid. It'd be stupid for the United States because it would, the U.S. would turn hard left if Canada was combined with the U.S. But Alberta, better that it became independent, not part of the U.S., but that's a different story.
Yeah. Well, clearly we can tell we're heading into a year and years ahead that we're going to have a changing geopolitical landscape. And I wanted to make sure to bring up, so for you've talked in the past about how this is all building toward a greater depression. So I want to make sure we touch on that before I let you go and how people can prepare. I know you have a new book that's geared at young men and how they can make moves in this environment. So I wonder if we can touch on that right now.
Yeah, I think that the world look, for the last 50 years, it's been obvious the direction that things were going. And there have been a number of times in the last 50 years when things could have gone over the edge and almost did. I'm afraid that this time, for a lot of reasons that we can't go into in the detail they deserve right now, I think this is the biggie we're looking at right now. This is it, probably. So this idea of the Greater Depression, which means it'll be different and longer lasting and more unpleasant than the experience of 1929 to 1946. Yep, that's right in front of us, actually. But rather than trying to change the world, I think it's better to change yourself. And one group of people that are really in trouble in the West are young men, especially, and they're hated and persecuted, and living in their mom's basements, playing video games and turning into losers. So a lot of it's the education system, and for years I've been saying, do not go to college. Allocation at best of 4 years of your time and a lot of your money. And the time is the most important thing because those years between 18 and 22 are the most important in your life, really, for lots of reasons. And people go to college to sit in a classroom and basically not even learn nothing, but be indoctrinated with really egregiously stupid and destructive ideas. And pay a lot of money for it, too. It's really stupid, and everybody thinks they have to do it. So this book, anyway, The Preparation, tells people exactly why I said what I said, but more important, it tells people, young men in particular, and their parents and grandparents, what you should do with those 4 years of time. What should you do? It's possible, I'd say necessary in today's world, to transform yourself into a Renaissance man, in effect, so that you not only know much more than the average college graduate would about academic subjects. We go into all this and how you do it and what it costs. But also, we divide the 4-year time frame of college into 16 quarters. And in each quarter, you'll learn something really important about doing stuff in the world. By the time you're finished with it, you'll be a pilot, you'll be a professional qualified sailor, you'll know how to weld, you'll know how to drive heavy machinery, you'll know how to build a house, you'll know how to be a professional chef. You'll spend a month in Florence learning to be a professional chef. Not that you're going to use it or become Gordon Ramsay, but you could if you wanted to. And you'll have skills that almost nobody else is going to have. You'll have many of the skills of a lawyer, an MBA. This is better than an MBA course, all this stuff. So it goes on, and we show where to go, what it costs, how long it takes. Anyway, this is a very important book. People should go on Amazon and buy it and make sure that somebody who's in high school or for that matter, grade school, or, anybody. It's a question of turning around the culture and the civilization. College should be washed away. It's a disaster. It's a negative value. And I'm not just saying don't go to college. That doesn't solve the problem. Here's what you do instead. Okay. That's the pitch on the book, Charlotte. So.
Well, I'm curious to know. I know it just recently came out, but what's the reception been so far? Have you heard from people who maybe started trying it out?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, because my co-author, Matt Smith, who I do my podcast with, his son, Maxim, started doing the preparation when he was 18. He was our guinea pig. He's doing this stuff now. In fact, I think as we speak, he's now in the Orient, and he's going to spend 3 months learning Muay Thai in a Thai gym. So this is one of the 16 things. So in addition to everything else, you'll be a competent fighter. And this is important. If you have to know how to fight, you should. You know how to use guns, and there's all kinds of stuff in this that you can and should do. So answer to the question, it's working, and it's transformed Max's life. He has a blog about this where, he monitors himself in addition to gaining skills in writing and reporting and stuff like that, which is worthwhile skills. But lots of other young men that have read the book are doing this as well. And they reach out to him and us, and they tell him, yeah, I want to do this. I'm tired of screwing around and wasting time and being a dopehead, So answer to the question is, initial indications are pretty good. Will it change the world? I don't know. Don't really care. I'm interested in individual people changing themselves. The world has a life of its own.
Well, that's great to hear. And I like the focus on changing yourself versus the world, because I think that can just overwhelm people if they think that's what they have to set out to do. So thank you for sharing. And I know I don't want to keep you too long, but any final thoughts that you would share with investors heading into the year?
Well, I hate to say this after gold and silver have both hit all-time highs, although I should hasten to point out that silver in real terms is still only 40% of its previous all-time high, which it hit back in 1980, $50. But it's a different world now, as far as who's buying and all the rest of this, as we talked about before. And the action, I think, is in these stocks. People don't know they exist. They don't care about them. And if they learn about them, they're poo-pooed and they hate them. So I plan on staying long these stocks. And, I'm picking away at gold, at oil, gas, especially gas. I like gas more than oil. Because at let's say $60 oil, the energy content of natural gas is 3 times as great, and natural gas is arguably a better fuel, much better in some applications. So especially like gas stocks, world is awash in gas. You got a lot of nice gas stocks in Alberta too, and uranium stocks. Nuclear power is the safest, the cheapest, and the cleanest form of mass power generation. So I'm bullish on them. But other than that, and these are speculative areas, and I hate to recommend speculative areas in a time when at the same time I'm telling people, look, the most important thing is don't lose money. It sounds like a contradiction, and it kind of is a contradiction. Because the problem is that with the government, and it's not just the U.S. government, which is clinically insane with the amount of money that Trump is printing up. I mean, he's just gone berserk, especially when the new Federal Reserve guy gets in there. This is going to be like Germany in the 1920s. I certainly hope not. But as he does all these crazy things in the economy, the average guy is going to be kind of forced to be a speculator just to stay ahead of the inflation and all these things that are going on. So I don't know if you can avoid being a speculator. I don't think you can. So you got to try to get competent at it. And that's my advice for how to play a speculative game.
Well, I think that's a great place to wrap up. And thank you for explaining how those 2 things that seem different work together. I totally understand. Thank you so much for coming on to help us head into the new year. This was great.
Pleasure to see you, Charlotte.
Of course. And once again, I'm Charlotte McLeod with investingnews.com, and this is Doug Casey.
Thank you for watching. If you like this video, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. We'd also love to hear your thoughts, so leave us a comment below.